Several years ago, while producing the documentary, The Lost Civilizations of North America, I accompanied our research and production team through the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys. As we visited the ancient mound building cultures, it was a true adventure of discovery, for notwithstanding our prior research, we were surprised to still find an abundance of artifacts, burial mounds, and massive earthwork structures. Artifacts that give evidence of a more highly advanced civilization than we have been led to believe. As we were asking some of the same questions that you're probably asking yourself right now, the why, how, and the who questions. If there were advanced cultures here in North America, why don't we know more about them? Why haven't they been more celebrated? And if the knowledge of these ancient civilizations were silenced, who silenced them and why? And how did this all come about? So in answering some of these questions and others, let me share with you some clips from our documentary, The Lost Civilizations of North America.
In 1991, while serving as the director of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, historian Roger Kennedy was shocked to learn, for the first time, that massive ancient city remains existed in North America.
Very, very few of us were conscious of the immensity of a place like Monk's Mound at Cahokia, opposite St. Louis, which is bigger in its footprint than the Great Pyramid at Giza. We didn't know that.
Most Americans have no idea that ancient cities with advanced architectures once dotted the ancient North American landscape. Director Kennedy has since coined a name for such places.
What I call hidden cities. I use the term because these were very big places. There were more people, we now know, in Cahokia, across from St. Louis, than there were in London or Rome. There were major population centers in what are now Nashville and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and St. Louis.
Why is it that top historians didn't know about such things? How is it that this knowledge was kept from the modern public as well?
That people are unaware of Hopewell and Cahokia as world-class achievements, of course, UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Not only did Kennedy, as a historian at the Smithsonian, not know about them, at least one president of the Society for American Archaeology had never been to Cahokia, even by the time he retired at the age of 70.
I'm actually one of the people who didn't know all that much about the Hopewell civilization, and in fact, I grew up in the Midwest. I'm from Michigan.
There were tens of thousands of architectural consequences that are now hidden behind our junk and our architectural achievements.
Once I started talking about it, I found lots of other Native people who had no idea that these sites existed and were there and what they were all about and the history of them. That, to me, in and of itself, is amazing, that that level of just silence around this.
We now know more about this silence. We know of an advanced ancient civilization that inhabited North America, lost to our modern memories because of 19th century political and scientific agendas.
As explorers poured over the Appalachian Mountains into the river valleys of the Ohio and Mississippi, they were surprised what they were finding. These giant fortifications, earthworks, and mounds. One mound site that our production film crew visited is called Mound City National Park, located in Ohio. As our bus pulled up to this park, the morning mist was just starting to rise off the fields that dotted the landscape. As we walked among the mounds, we wondered with great awe as to the energy expended, wondering what would motivate the building of such massive iconic structures, and if there was more that we could learn from these ancient cultures. We did, however, discover that there were many who were asking similar questions, and no less an authority than Dr. Roger Kennedy, former director of the Smithsonian American History Museum, in his landmark book, Hidden Cities, in which he published in 1994, Dr. Kennedy recounts the startling personal events that led him to writing his book. Inspired by what he had found while exploring subterranean caves found in the state of Indiana, as he realized from the artifacts found that others had walked those same paths through those caves centuries earlier. Dr. Roger Kennedy went on to say in his book that few realize that some of the most complex structures of ancient archaeology were built in North America, home of some of the most highly advanced and well-organized civilizations in the world. In producing the Lost Civilizations documentary, we set out to interview the foremost scholars that we could find who had studied these ancient cultures and history, and in so doing, an understanding of this daunting history emerged. As we came to realize that this is indeed a larger history than just the loss of America's antiquities, or even the exploration into the geography of the Book of Mormon in North America. This is a story of how and why the recovery of this knowledge has been hampered, hidden, and manipulated, and how these provocations were motivated by a myriad of issues facing these early men of science and government in the 1800s, and how it has had a real effect on society today.